The following program is brought to you by Fanbags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off your entire order. Step up your game with Fanbags Cornhole.
Hey everybody, this is David Jenkins Jr., and you're listening to Boilers in the Stands.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back and better than ever. This is Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Kraig Bowers Jr. Alongside me tweeting is Kraig Bowers. We're working hard in the underbelly of the house that Jordan built. Joining us, as always, is our guys, Joe Jackson, Aidan Kunst, resting comfortably now that the Boilers secured that tightrope win. Certainly a battle. It's always never a dull moment when you play Rutgers. They make it a dogfight. They use up every inch of the fouls allotted to them. I think they had, how many guys with 3 or 4 fouls? A couple guys foul out. That's how they're going to do things. Derek Simpson certainly is a force to be reckoned with here going forward in the Big Ten. But Purdue lives to play another day here in the Big Ten tournament. Survive and advance is what you do in March, and that's exactly what they did today. So overall feeling good. Nervous for a few moments. The officiating certainly always have something to leave your head scratching about. Painter said in the post-game press conference, a little bit of a Keystone Cop moment. So, and I thought there were bad calls on both ends. So we'll discuss all that. Kraig and I are going to try to be involved as much as we can here to start the show, but if at some point we want to pass this off to Joe and Aidan and let them take it home, we might do that because we're in a media room where a bunch of other people are being quiet and we are not. So Kraig, why don't you give us your instant reaction?
Yeah, I think, just any time that you have a chance to play against Rutgers, it's going to be a dogfight. Painter said after the home game loss that, if we were ever going to go to war, we'd swing by New Jersey and pick up the Rutgers team. And that's true every single time. They're going to fight. They're going to play harder than everybody else they play for the most part. I thought we did a pretty good job, especially in the second half and the last 10 minutes of the first half, really matching their intensity and physicality. And we survived some bad decisions down the stretch there. But at the end of the day, especially Gillis just really came in and matched their fight. And we finally started knocking down some threes in that second half. And I think that anytime you get a win over a team like Rutgers and survive and advance, you're happy about it. And we exercised some Scarlet Knight demons today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to say that's pretty spot on. Difference in the two halves is 3-point shooting or the first, 18 minutes, and then Gillis hits once end the half. You come out second half, you knock down open threes that you missed in the first half. Morton and Jenkins hit some huge ones. Gillis hit a couple, and they were the only ones to hit them. Looking at the stats, and we'll get into that, I know, in a few. But, that's a big thing for me at this point is if this team can hit jumpers, they look like one of the best offenses in the country. When they're missing, they're getting good looks and missing. It's just like, all right, I don't know what you do. Where we'll talk about the press, I think it's just an interesting thing to talk about just in general. But at the end of the day, this is a win. This is a Purdue win. Purdue is advancing to the semis, beats a team that has given them a lot of troubles, an archetype that has given them a ton of trouble. And even the first 5 minutes did not look good, and then they battle back, get settled, and it's a solid win over a team that's, Rutgers is also trying to fight their way back into playing some of their better basketball. So overall, just solid win and one that you're just happy to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody in the chat's asking, I think Greg needs a throat lozenge. No, this is my quiet voice. I know we've never heard my quiet voice before. Today you're going to hear it because we're trying to be respectful. I mean, there's people in here doing interviews and stuff on things around the room. And I don't think we're being that much of a nuisance. So we're going to make this work as best we can, try to be respectful of everyone around us here in the media room here at the United Center. Certainly exciting for me personally. I mean, as someone that grew up a Bulls fan and a diehard Michael Jordan fan, to walk by the Bulls locker room and come out the same tunnel that Michael Jordan did. I mean, I know we want to talk Boilers here, but it was certainly another step up the ladder for what we're trying to do here as Grant Hill walks right by us. So, I mean, this is kind of what we're doing here. This is like my childhood walking around here. So certainly exciting. But how about Mason Gillis, boys? I mean, how do you not start this whole conversation? I know we normally go to stats of the game, but I just think in the instant reaction, you got to give Mason Gillis some love.
Yeah, I can do just that. I thought he was huge. Like I said at halftime, I thought it was his best half or one of his best halves of the season. That first half felt like he was just doing everything right, cutting to open space, cutting behind guys, hits the big three to cap off the first half there, and then just continues his stellar play. He is our guy that is most like a Rutgers player, right? I mean, he is a guy who's certainly willing to mix it up, make it into that football style. And so I thought, he did a good job. He said, a lot of these other guys are weaker, maybe not willing to kind of mix it up with Rutgers. And Mason was just like, nope, I'm here. I'm up for the challenge. I'm going to take it on head first. And just in general, I think this was a huge win because, to Craig's point, they really exercised some demons. I mean, this is a team that they've just had Purdue's number. Peichel and his boys have been tougher than Purdue, whether it was at the rack, at Mackey, whatever the case may be. And they turn it into a style that is really difficult to play. And it's especially really difficult to play if you're trying to live by the book. If you're trying to play a clean game, as Purdue likes to do. They like to play by the book, and more power to them for that. But Rutgers just kind of throws that out the window. And I think Purdue needed to beat a team like this. I think they needed this win to kind of propel them forward. And now that we've gotten over a Rutgers, it's kind of like, who can't we beat at this point? If you're the team, that mentality. This is the one team, that anyone on the team potentially hasn't beaten in a while. So, yeah, I think it's a great win for Purdue and one that came at the right time. I'm really glad we got to play Rutgers and obviously beat Rutgers. Joe, I don't know if you want to jump in.
I thought it looked like they were going to. I was going to let them.
Yeah, I unmuted the mic.
Yeah, sorry, Joe. We've got some technical difficulties here. I'm listening on my headphones, but I've got a 10-second lag, so Braggs is like tapping me and telling me time to go.
Painter said Keystone Cops. I think maybe he was talking about this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I think the other big thing for me is just David Jenkins Jr., what he did today. Our freshman guards looked a little bit rattled out of the gate, and I think Jenkins really came in and just settled some things down. He knocked down some big-time shots. Into shot clock, like always, he's a shot clock killer. He hates shot clocks like nobody else hates anything else. In the post-game press conference, he said, when it gets down to 7 or 8 seconds, Painter says, go get you one. And that his eyes light up in those moments. And, man, he was so big, knocking down a couple of threes and just tough late clock shots. And I can't speak enough for what he did to kind of settle this team down to allow them to start creeping back in that moment.
Yeah, it was huge. Like I was, texting Aidan a little bit during the game, and that first one that just pull up 5 seconds, I joked. I was like, that was the most confident I've been in a Purdue 3 all day. Like that was the one I was just like, yeah, that one's going in for sure. I'm not concerned about that one. No, he was huge. Really just provided the spark that was needed. Like Purdue just couldn't get anything going from the perimeter. Gillis hit the one at the end of the first half. That was it. And Jenkins comes in off the bench, can kind of match some. He's only 6'1" or whatever, but he can match some physicality that Rutgers had. And I thought it was a really good game. I mean, he played 20 minutes, third leading scorer. I guess, I don't know. Do we want to transition just to stats from here? Or?
Yeah, why don't you read them off? I'm going to say hi to Grant Hill.
All right. Get him on the show. But, yeah, I can read them off. 70-65 win for Purdue over Rutgers. Just looking at the top right, the current trends, Purdue made 7 of their last 9 field goal attempts. And off the top of my head, that probably lasted like the last 9 minutes or 10 minutes of the game. I feel like they didn't attempt an actual field goal for the last 5 minutes. Aside from that, though, this is a team in Rutgers that doesn't have a ton of bench. They threw Miller in. Hyatt only played 6 minutes, which is surprising. Wolfolk played 7, but it's their main guys. Simpson goes for 18, Spencer 13, Mulcahy and Amori each with 10. Purdue, Gillis with a game high 20 on 7 of 8 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 turnovers. Edie 16 and 11, just a solid game from him overall. Jenkins, like we mentioned, 12 points on 4 of 4 shooting, 3 of 3 from 3, 1 of 1 from 2 is what that makes. 2 boards, 2 assists. Smith had a good solid game too, 8 points, 5 assists, and I thought Morton was great. 8 points, 4 assists. Just some team stats in general. Purdue actually gets beat on offensive rebounds. Rutgers had a couple stretches, lose 12-13. When the overall rebounding is 35-28. Turnovers were 11-8 for Purdue to Rutgers. So, that's kind of maybe 1 or 2 higher than what Purdue wants, but that's right in that's close to that 8 to 10 range that Purdue hopes for. Rutgers shoots 6 of 19 from 3, Purdue 7 of 20. Rutgers 9 steals compared to 2, so live ball turnovers which has been an issue, but what I think that's kind of the majority there. What kind of stands out to you, Aidan or Kraig, if Kraig can hear?
Yeah, Kraig, go ahead if you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear just fine. I'm trying to get used to Greg's mic here. It's a little bit different setup, but for me, really it's the turnovers I'm going to go to, because we had 4 turnovers, I think, 5 turnovers. 4 turnovers in the first 5 minutes, and then we only finished with 11. So even though we had some crazy stretches right down there at the end of the game, still for them to kind of gather themselves and go, I don't know, it was probably a 35-minute stretch there where they, into those last couple of minutes, where they really just didn't turn the ball over much at all in between there. Yeah. And my magic number in my head is always 12. If we can say 12 or under, I think we're generally okay. If we're going to get a rebounding margin, free throw margin that we normally do. So, I guess going there, just the fact that they settled down and for a large part of the game, just didn't get loose with the ball.
And I think, and I think, getting to the line 27 times, I think going 35% from 3 is not terrible for this team, especially. In fact, it's really kind of good. I think that honestly, when you look at this statistical profile, if you would have showed this to Painter before the game, he would have said we would have won. Won the rebounding margin, got to the line more, 35% from three, 1.2 points per possession against a really good Rutgers defense is pretty darn good. And a lot of that's free throws, obviously. And that comes with some missed opportunities. I mean, Braden Smith got 3 or 4 really good looks from three. Even Fletcher Lawyer got some good looks. Obviously, we will get into him later. He obviously was kind of struggled out there. And then I think you got to go to Gillis. I mean, 32 minutes, 20 and 9, just his, I think, best overall performance of the season when we needed it most. And that comes in a season where he hit 9 threes in a game. But at the same time, when you look at the totality of, okay, yeah, he hit shots in that game, but this one just mixing it up on the boards. And we really needed it. Gillis was there. He really was. I think I go back to what I said earlier. Like, I think he was the guy who was willing to mix it up with Rutgers and play their style and excel at their style of play. And so, yes, he had a few sloppy turnovers, and the live ball turnovers are brutal. As we know, and we got bailed out by a charge call there on Braden, a missed runner when Braden tried to take another charge. We got bailed out plenty in this game off our live ball turnovers, but I think without Mason Gillis, there's no question we lose this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. He was the best player in this game today, probably. Won the MVP per Ken Palm. Another stat that I have, and it's not, it's not clipped in here, but Purdue averaged 1.577 points per possession in the second half. That's nuts. Like, that's 1.577. That's like shooting like 70% or something like that, or 72% from two for the entire half. If you only took twos, obviously different with threes and free throws, but like that's an insane number. And then it's against one of the best defenses in the country who pressed really hard the last 3 minutes. And I agree. I think Purdue got bailed a little bit. Purdue got bailed by the refs some, and Rutgers also got bailed by the refs some. I think it, especially in that end, there's a couple that like maybe could have been turnovers, whatever, but the stuff you take. But 1.577 after you got up to 1.0 points per possession in the first half against Rutgers after an abysmal start. I think that's a key one too. Just they were able to get into their groove. The offense didn't necessarily revolve around Edey. 16 points on 11 shots, but
right,
it was also he was still able to get his touches, get his movements and stuff. Just a good game overall. And then I just go back to the 3-point shooting. I really do. 7 of 20 overall, and in the first half they were 2 of 10. Second half 5 of 10. Like, and I think that's pretty much just the difference. Now, Purdue is still figuring out. They're still like maybe the Maryland game, I guess, is the only game where they shot themselves out of a game. It felt like, where it's just like were games where they just weren't able to come back because of how bad they were shooting. Even the IU losses, the Northwestern loss, even the Rutgers loss early in the year, like those were games that they shot poorly, but were able to come back in some other way. Just that Maryland one was the only one.
Hey, Joe, if I told you that Braden, Fletcher, and Brandon didn't hit a 3 and we still shot 35%, are you taking that bet before the game?
I would not. No, that would mean Gillis. I would just assume Gillis went like 7 for 9 again or something. Also, can we talk about Ethan Morton shooting? Like, it just has been solid in Big Ten play. Pulling it up right now. Oh, it's not updated. No, it's not included in here.
2 for
but
3 today. So
yeah. I think he's 20 of 56, which is like 35%. He's shooting solid, and that's all we wanted from him. It was a rough start. Dare I say I trust him shooting an open 3? I don't know. Maybe I'm not, but I'm there. I'm almost there if I'm not there already.
I'm there.
Well,
I trust him.
I'm there, and we talked about this, Joe. I mean, we trust him more offensively right now than we do Brandon Newman.
And Newman's been great. And
Newman's been awesome.
Yeah. Like
Newman's, I mean, maybe it's not a stretch to say we trust him more than we trust Lawyer at this point. Because he's going to swing the ball around. He's going to get paint touches. That one of the best plays of the game was that where he drove and kicked it back to Braden. Braden drove, kicked it to him. Braden circled back behind the play. And then he flips it back to Braden, who gets a paint touch and gets a floater like that. Those are the types of plays that Morton can make. That pass that he made on that play was pretty darn difficult. I mean, just across his body as he was going left, firing it back right. And those are the passes that a lot of times get you beat against a team like Rutgers that can intercept those. But yeah, he's really good. I think he's a really good player. And the fact that he's just embraced his role coming off the bench just speaks to how valuable he is. I think he got 28 minutes tonight. It was earned. He had 4 assists, just 2 turnovers. He has definitely looked shaky against the press. Not the best decision maker at times. The dribbling through 3 guys was just a silly decision. And they do have to get that figured out. There's no question. But when he's open, he'll take what the defense gives him, which I like about him. And at this point, if he's going to knock down open threes, and the 1 3 he did miss fell right into Gillis's hands, so thanks for that. It was basically just a pass off the far side of the backboard. So we appreciate that as well, because it just seems like we have not had the 3-point misses that we've had earlier in the season that Zach was able to go just kind of gobble up and put right back in. So that was appreciated as well, for sure.
Yeah, and he dribbled, into traffic the one time trying to break the press. But the thing I do like about him against the press is he advances the ball.
Yes.
He's confident in moving up, and that was one bad play. But I feel like against the press in the last 5 or 6 games, he's done a better job of getting the ball up the court when he's on there, especially
and
when
Lawyer's
they swing him on the side. Yeah.
And Lawyer's always looking to get it back to Braden.
Yeah.
And there was a few times there down the stretch where they talked about on the broadcast, Kraig, where they were in Painter's huddle, and he had drawn up a play to set a screen and Newman to sprint in from half court. And that was and Lawyer just takes off and throws it into Smith in the coffin corner before that could even develop.
Yeah.
And so it's plays like that where you just go, oh man, what are you doing? And I think they just lost their mind a little bit down the stretch.
Right.
But as I posted on Twitter, they're very, very efficient against the press overall in the season. And they've seen it, I think, more than 89% of other teams. So they really do see a lot of press. And there was definitely some things going around on Twitter about, if you just press Braden Smith for 40 minutes, you'll beat Purdue by double digits.
No.
And I think that's lazy. I don't know that that's going to be the case. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Could you keep up the stamina to do that for 40 minutes? I don't think so. A lot of teams will just show false pressure, man pressure, and then it just kind of drop out of it, which is common. And that probably counts on Synergy's stats as well. But
I'm gonna give the headphones back to Greg here in case anybody wondered where he disappeared. He saw Grant Hill and ran off like an excited little schoolboy to get a picture with him and disappeared for the last 10 minutes.
No picture.
Did you tell Grant Duke isn't good?
Grant Duke isn't good. That is exactly what I did. No, you see Grant Hill, you got to network a little out here, guys.
So he's coming on the show? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was trying to see if he'd make an appearance on the world-renowned Brags in the Stands, but
don't hate the player. Hate the game.
He did not. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys went over in stats of the game, so I won't pretend like I did hear.
Just fire away.
Did. Yeah, I mean,
fire
pretty
away.
shocking, 47% from the field. When you consider the way this team started it, they had a better field goal shooting percentage at the end of the first half. So they righted the ship fairly quickly, which for me really was surprising with how rocky of a start it was. So, I just think overall for this team to battle through in that kind of adversity, because, Painter's talked about how the Big Ten tournament isn't as much of a point of emphasis when you're getting in. But as we all know, the one seed is still on the line here. So, they couldn't necessarily lay down. I think they're playing with house money at the end of the day because they're either going to be a 1 seed, which is great, or they're going to be a 2 seed in Louisville. And I think both have advantages at the end of the day. You obviously want the 1 seed, but, I just think this team continues to battle. Ethan Morton starting to get real comfortable, not just breaking the press, but from the 3-point line and different things. So and Painter said in his post-game presser, the thing that excites him is that they're really not shooting to their ability, and he knows they can make these threes. Fletcher Lawyer, Brandon Newman, Caleb First. It's only a matter of time before 1 or 2 of these guys break out, specifically Fletcher Lawyer. Anybody that wants to, move off of Fletcher because he's getting bullied out there, he's missing some shots, I don't think he's seeing the bigger picture, because what's going to blow the roof off this team is if he gets hot along with the rest of these guys. And, somebody was tweeting at me during the game, like, why is Fletcher in there? He needs to get out. And I get it. At one point, Painter recognized that and subbed him out for David Jenkins, who was playing good on both ends. But at the same time, sometimes what Fletcher does is pulls dudes off of Edie. You know, they're trying to double team him and do different things. And that's gravity coming back towards Fletcher, which gives Edie something to work with.
Hey, Greg, this is something that we want to, especially if you're going to jump off early, we should talk about this, the environment, the turnout, being there courtside or wherever you guys were sitting.
Yes.
How was it?
Thank you for setting me up with this, because this is one of my points I wanted to make before we kind of let you guys take it home, because I think it'll be a little more organized for you guys. But I'm clipping this when it's done. So this is the statement I'm making. If you're coming to the United Center over the next 2 days, tomorrow or potentially Sunday, you better be getting loud, okay? Because the Rutgers fans, they came all the way from Piscataway, wherever the hell they're from, and they were loud today. They made their presence felt. And there are a lot of Boiler fans here. At the moments that Purdue went on a run, they got loud a couple times. But I need more than that. I need more from the fans in the stands, and that's what this podcast is all about. So it's a call to arms. Every single fan that comes here for the next 2 games, potentially, if they play all the way till Sunday, you better be on your feet. You better be chanting defense every single time, getting loud for these guys who are playing hard. Zach Edey is the first to the floor. That's the kind of stuff that you need to be cheering for every single time if you're a Purdue fan. And I don't care if you're a part of the family section. The family section needs to get up and get loud. The Rutgers family section was getting loud today. You need to make your presence felt. I've gone to these tournaments for the last 4 or 5 years, and too often I'm not seeing enough from the Purdue fans. We're loud in Mackey. We need to make everywhere feel like Mackey. So let's get it done. Let's go, Purdue fans. Let's pull from the same rope. Let's get loud here at the United Center over the next 2 days.
Ready to run through a brick wall now. Let's do it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. With the limitations of the media room, you got your point across, even having to be a little restrained there.
I didn't swear.
There you go.
Yeah.
Family safe clip.
Kraig had to shush me earlier because I started getting loud about the coach of the year with Brian Tonsoni. Because this is what I asked him. I'm never going to give this up, guys. This is what I asked him, and I'll ask you both this. You can both answer it. The coach of the year is voted by the coaches. Who do you think Matt Painter voted for? You both guess. Who do you think Matt Painter voted for?
Probably Chris Collins.
My guess would be Chris Collins.
Okay. Who do you think Chris Collins voted for?
Chris Collins.
Oh, can you vote for yourself?
Aiden's got it.
Oh, I didn't know.
You can vote for yourself.
If you're allowed to, Aiden nailed it. And Brian said the same thing. And then Brian's like, well, how do you know? I was like, you freaking know. You know it. You know Painter didn't vote for himself, and you know Chris Collins did. That's all you need to know about this coach of the year crap.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So I'm basically Greg's get back coach this week. Like anytime he starts getting out of hand, I'm grabbing him by the arms and just like, slow your roll, buddy. Slow your roll.
Everybody's got to have one, and it's fun. Must be a fun duo. If anybody in the chat sees him up there, just give us a little head or update on how they're doing. Maybe you see Bragg's just freaking out on the sideline or something, or Craig's shushing him, but should be seems like it's a fun time up there.
Yeah, or Kraig giving a scared look as Greg runs onto the court and tries to get some picture or something.
You never
Greg,
know.
There's literally 5 minutes left in the half. Like, why are you out there?
I know.
Yeah, he's in the huddle. Yeah.
Well, at one point, Kraig was laughing at me because Braden Smith, they rebound the ball. They're up like 6 or 8, and Braden's starting to come down the court. And you know how Painter puts his hand out like, all right, slow down, set this up. I had my hand out like Painter. I was like giving Braden the message, and everyone around me was like laughing. Like, I think he saw you, Greg. Like, hey, if everybody communicates it like Painter does, he'll see. He's not going to miss it.
Right.
Like I said, pull from the same rope.
Yeah, if you're following what Painter says, like, it can't hurt.
Well, the best assistants echo the head coach's message. So I think he probably appreciates that. And I don't know, Joe. Do you have anything on the chalkboard? I know that's kind of next up on the list here to kind of pull this back. But
I could
do something else.
Yeah, I could real quick. Just give me a second. I was not prepared.
Right, Brad. A call to arms. Anybody coming here the next 2 days, you tell them if they're coming here, they better get loud because I'm going to be watching.
Yep. He will be watching you guys, so make sure we come out in full force. Obviously, should be a little easier, not at a noon tip on a work day, probably tomorrow, I would think.
True.
I would hope. But we'll see.
All
If
right.
there's IU fans in there, they're probably going to be rooting for Ohio State.
And
or Michigan
before
State.
Joe gets his chalkboard going, let me clarify something with you, Blake Widmer. We are media, but we are fans. Okay, we're breaking the mold here. Okay, you watch, Carter and Greg with their sleepers media with Field of 68. They do fan coverage, right? You see Titus and those guys at Barstool. They do fan coverage, right? Not everybody's going to be traditional media. And so what you see here with what we do here, we're not traditional. I don't want to be traditional. I want to be different. Everybody else can fight over who wants to be the best traditional. We're going to be the best untraditional media. And I think there's a place for that in media, and I'm going to break the mold. So welcome.
There we go.
Let's enjoy the ride.
I mean, who else is bringing out a chalkboard like this? Nobody. Maybe somebody, but
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen a lot of that.
Yeah,
So that specific one.
Yeah, at least not this. And this is just I think we've talked about this before. I know we've mentioned it a ton, but I thought it was just a really pivotal play, end of the half, and it's kind of in transition and maybe where's my eraser? There it is, just so I have it ready. I actually have two today. It's just a simple roll and replace, and we've talked about it, but I just think it is important, and also I just don't really have anything else ready. And so we're just gonna go over it. It was, I forget honestly who was in the game, but Newman, Lawyer, Morton, Jenkins, whatever. Like they're in these two corners. It's now in the transition, you get this drag screen, which is kind of where Edie's trailing and he comes and sets a screen. And one thing that Edie does really, really well, actually, it would have been like this, and Edie's over here. One thing that Edie does really well is he really sets it at the line. Oftentimes when you see these drag screens, they might set him like up here or something. And so now when he comes off, he's like out here, and you can't really do a ton with that. But Edie does a really good job. He really gets down here, sets a hard screen with, at 7-4. And then so as he's coming off, Braden's coming off, Edie rolls, and this is where Gillis replaces the roll. So he's just coming up here this entire time. Usually his guy is right here, and he's the one that's just in charge of tagging Edie. And so now as Braden's here, Edie's tagging. This is Gillis's man. This is like Edie's man. We'll say this is like Smith's man. Gillis is over here, rolls, replaces the roll, gets up here, pass, open three, and he knocked it down. I thought that was just a really pivotal moment. It kind of capped off the half for Purdue to keep them, getting momentum and stuff like that going into the second half. And then the other one I have is one that I'm just kind of coming up with on the fly. I don't know if we have, a specific name for it or anything like that, but I'm just going to call it Jenkins with under 5 seconds. And it's where Jenkins gets the ball here. And then he generally will look here and see that there's like less than 5 seconds on the shot clock. So then what he does is he dribbles and he shoots and he makes it. And it's a simple but effective play. One that came through a couple times today.
All right, now pull up your damn chalkboard and show us how we're breaking the press.
I'm gonna need some help from Aidan on this one probably, but
Aidan, help us. We need to know.
In general, it's we'll say Lawyer's the one inbounding. Well, they switched it up a bit. Towards the end, they kind of started having Edie here, then they'd have like Braden and Morton, and then Gillis would be like here. Accurate? No.
Yeah. And, I mean, they did that a couple times with Edie. A lot of times they'll just have Edie clear out, but they did that a few times.
Sometimes
there's so many different.
Yeah. It's generally some sort of crossing action. Maybe Edie's way down here. And then I think, and this is where I don't know, like I don't know what their game plan is entirely. From my guess is you're wanting, one of these passes, and I don't know why they go to the corner so far. I would like, and it's because the defense forces them there. So now Braden gets it here, and then you're kind of just in this Lawyer usually cuts through then, right? If Braden gets it, he got it more over here today, right?
Yeah, then Lawyer would,
Lawyer kind of cuts through here, and then usually you have your defender there, Rutgers was pretty much sending everybody out. Like they had, I think pretty constantly. They had like 4 guys here, and then probably somebody like here. Now this doesn't feel right exactly on defense, but in general, Smith has the ball here. He gets hard trapped. They take this pass away. They have somebody trying to usually take this pass away. I don't know. Would it be better for Lawyer to like come up a little bit?
Well, I think that, to me, it depends on the four-man. I mean, when he gets the ball, we tend to break the press. If it's Gillis flashing, I mean, that's the key, Yeah.
Why run? Why purposely run to the corner? It just seems like you're falling right into the trap.
I think it's I didn't quite finish.
What do you think, Aiden?
I know that one thing Painter really likes to do is called an L cut. And so you cut straight down and then cut out like it's an L. And he believes that can get you, like that. And so they would cross it over. So that's what you're talking about, Joe, when they cross. Is they're both L cutting. And that way, a lot of times we'll see Braden catch and then he's catching on the move. But the problem is Rutgers wants him to do exactly that. And so they're forcing him into that corner. A lot of times against other teams, we've seen that soft middle and Braden can kind of just dribble it through. But I think with Rutgers, you have got to get the ball into the four-man's hands, whether it's Mason flashing right away, like Joe from where you said he was. If he comes in hard immediately, usually when we got that, now we're fine because they have to clear off a little bit.
And then the other observation is, because I agree, the few times where they actually got it in clean is when they pass it right in the middle to Mason. But then Mason turns around. And I feel like in a few instances, he has the opportunity to dribble it himself up. And I know that's not his responsibility. His responsibility is to throw it back to the point guard, and then they kind of shuffle it back and forth until they get it across. But they're playing so off of you. Dribble a few steps forward. If they collapse on you, then pass. They're being too deliberate with what their responsibility is, I feel like.
I do think they're making it more difficult than it has to be. And I think there are times where they start, especially Lawyer does this, he starts to dribble right and tries to get to that corner of the half court line to get it across. But he doesn't realize that there's a pretty simple ball reversal right behind him with Morton or somebody of that nature. So I do think it's simpler than, I mean, if it was simple, they would just do it. But I do think they're kind of overcomplicating things and kind of losing their mind a little bit. Tarek in the chat bumped up here, maybe use Edey to break the press, which I'm all for that. I mean, I think having him down there is not a bad thing. You do bring the extra variable of another defender, but at the same time, he can just box out whoever's guarding him. And then hopefully the thing I worry about there is him making a decision once he has it and then he had one today that was a little risky where he got it and then threw it. And it was close. I mean, he got it through, but I mean, we've seen a propensity from him to just kind of throw it into the third row at times. So I don't know. I mean, I like the concept there, but I'm sure that's why they don't do it is because they're scared about him just kind of chucking it away.
And then, Aiden, I don't know, did you touch on at all the stats of what you were talking about on Twitter when it comes to this press thing and that the way you explained it to me, like I'm 5 because I need that, is that they're pressed 90% more than other teams are pressed and that their efficiency off scoring is 90% better than those teams. You want to explain that to the viewers if you haven't already?
Yeah, I have not already. So this graphic that we have up, hopefully you guys can see it pretty well. This is a screenshot from Synergy Sports, which is a service that most college teams use. It is, you have to pay for it, but so all possessions up here, that's their overall points per possession on every play. And so that's, you see that in the top row there. That's very good. It's 82nd percentile in the country. You go on down to the 6th column here, and this is their stats against the press. So you look, you see, okay, 14% of the time that Purdue has the ball, they're being pressed, which is 89%, the 89th percentile in the country. Greg, so that was, I was telling you, like, they get pressed more than 89% of teams in the country. And then you look down and then you go over to points per possession, which is a measure of course, their efficiency against the press. And again, they're in the 90th percentile, over a point per possession against the press. And so that tells a little bit different story than what we've been hearing on Twitter with a couple of the national guys saying, hey, just press Purdue and you're going to beat them in the tournament. I think the other thing that sticks out here, go all the way over to the right where it says percent free throw, those last 3 columns. And you see that Purdue gets fouled 18% of the time, or nearly 19% of the time that they're pressed. So I think that's one of the reasons why they're able to get to this efficiency number is because they get fouled. You see it's a little skewed to where they get a run out on a press. It's 1.2. When the defense is able to set, it's 0.984. So it's I know that's probably pretty confusing for people, but I hope I just did a good job explaining it. It's simple once you really look into it. But
and essentially, so it feels like to me, while it does work at times when people press Purdue, because the eyes don't lie, we see that Purdue has trouble with it. Ultimately, those teams are doing that to try to scramble because they're losing, and it only works so many times before they start fouling, and then they send the Purdue to the free throw line.
And that's
it's just not sustainable for the course of a game. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's just like it's interesting because you look at the numbers and Purdue does fine. I think what hurts is like when it's a turnover, it's like it looks really bad. And then there are times that they have close calls, but they still make it. And excuse me, I think those close calls are counted against them where they do get it across. And I think that's shown a little bit by when it gets to the half court that their efficiency drops just a bit. And that's because then at that point, they have 20 seconds left or whatever. But how many times, like, there's been 5 losses. How many of those have we come on and been like, it's because they couldn't handle the press? Maryland, maybe Northwestern, and maybe the first
Northwestern. I think the real comment is just extreme ball pressure. That's what bothers them.
That's and if in the half court.
Yeah, in the half court. If you have the horses to do that, then more power to you. But how many teams in the field can relentlessly pressure the ball like Northwestern or Rutgers? I mean, that is one thing that's fairly unique about the Big Ten. And they get a lot of hate for the conference success, but it does show you a really difficult style to play against. Like, this was a football game today. And how many teams are going to have 6'8" McConnell, 6'5" Cam Spencer, 6'3" Derek Simpson, 6'7" Mulcahy at the top of that? 4 guards who can jump passing lanes, who are tall, big and tall, got 6, 7 inches on Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer. They got 40 pounds of muscle. So like it's not, this team is not, this teams like Rutgers don't grow on trees. Our average 8-9 matchup, if you look at a lot of the pairings, is like Missouri and Boise State, who are all offense, no defense. So again, it's matchup dependent. If we run into a Rutgers type team, Kyle Ray brings up St. Peter's, invokes that name. That's an exact team that can kind of do it. I don't think any team can do it. I think that team was also uniquely suited to attack Purdue. So that's just my opinion. I get maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I guess the stats don't really lie on that. And I think they're going to be fine against the press, especially if they try to do it for an entire game.
Yeah. So Willie Dean asked in chat, what are the odds Brax wears his credentials to bed tonight? I might, because last night I was going to drive up here for the Illinois Penn State game, got halfway here to only realize I left my freaking credentials at home, and then ended up just watching the game from home because I'm a moron. So I just might wear them to bed tonight because I'm an idiot and I forget things. So I'm
just wondering, who you guys think that he's leaving the United Center tonight? That's the fun part.
I probably won't.
What?
I'm so glad they won. Ohio State's up 46-36 with 11 minutes to go. So I think Kraig and I are gonna pass this off to you guys and let you take it home. Are you guys good? You want me to do the ad reads, or you got it?
If you
we got
want to, you can, but I think we got it.
You know what? I'll let you do it, Joe. I mean, I love doing them because they're my guys, but I have to like do them in this whisper voice. But
you can't be as excited as me.
Appreciate you guys working hard here. We'll be a little more organized tomorrow now that we kind of understand what we can and can't do here in this media room and kind of know our way around the building. It took us a minute to kind of figure everything out post game. So just stay tuned for more great coverage. We're going to be here hopefully all weekend long. So we'll just have to wait and see day by day. So tomorrow we'll definitely have another post game show. It might come a little quicker than today's did, but just bear with us, and we're going to continue to give you as good a coverage as we possibly can. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Please, as I leave, hit the like button for us. Hit the like button, subscribe. You guys are doing a great job promoting everything as fans. We're meeting a lot of people here at the stadium. And if you're here tomorrow, I'm going to be watching you. You better cheer as freaking loud and get up and get loud and chant defense. It's not hard. Defense. Just like that. Practice it while you're at home in the mirror with your family.
Can you do that a little louder, Greg? Can you do that a little louder?
If you want, I will freaking bust out the loudest defense chant in here these people have ever seen. I will scare everyone in here. So, all right. So we're going to go watch the rest of this game, see things are getting interesting for Michigan State. No sense of ball. So maybe it was somewhat of a trap for them getting lulled into this 10-point deficit, but game's certainly not over. So we're going to go check it out. Let you guys take it home. Thanks again for everybody tuning in, and Keep following Joe and Aiden because they're as good as it gets. We'll see you guys here soon. Craig, you want to say anything? You want to say bye? Craig says peace. Yeah. Later,
all right.
guys.
All right, see ya.
Later.
As Braggs exits, gets to soak it all.
I'm scared to leave the site, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, just hit leave, dude.
I almost hit end broadcast. That's how much
that would have been bad.
I am. That would have been bad, but I'm just gonna leave.
There we go. Even when he's not closing the show, still getting a little bit of a Northwestern goodbye, as he just is frozen. But he's good now. Real quick before gonna get to a couple ads. Let us know if Purdue wins tomorrow. Would you rather the live show be right after, or would you rather wait for the second game so we know the opponents? I'd be good either way, but just curious if anybody has any actual opinion on that. So, we'll get to a couple ad reads here real quick. Shout out to our guys over at Shire Insurance. As life changes, your insurance need change. Shire Insurance Services in Crown Point, Indiana, representing autos owners insurance, has been helping clients with their changing insurance needs for over 25 years. As an independent agency, we love working with auto owners to provide excellent service to our clients. Buying your first home, start with Shire. Expanding your business, start with Shire. Your teenage driver passed the driving test and you're worried about the increased cost in auto insurance, start with Shire. Whatever your insurance concern or need, we are ready to help make those things easier for you. Call 663-7274 or search online to start with Shire.
You've dreamed about the perfect house, a place to call your own, and a place to not only stretch out, but to grow. Auto Owners protects your house because to you, it's home. That's simple human sense.
Ask Shire Insurance Services, serving Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, if auto owners make sense for you.
Happy to help, man. I was just over there talking to myself anyway.
And then we do have to always, of course, give a shout out to our guys over at Mad Mush. Best pizza, in my opinion, at Purdue. I think that's pretty common knowledge. Really have enjoyed working with them. Really great pizza, the best cheese sticks. Something I'll definitely be getting for possibly the Big Ten tourney this weekend, and for sure March Madness as we roll through the weeks. It's a good excuse. Get some pizza. Enjoy some good food. Enjoy some good basketball. Make sure to use coupon code BITS BITS for 15% off any order. That basically comes out to roughly a slice or so per pizza, and then I personally love just free slices of pizza. So shout out to them we appreciate them for sponsoring this. And so, now I don't know where we want to go. We're kind of just back to the young guns running it again. Do we want to just, is there specific players you want to talk about more?
I think we should probably elaborate a little bit on David Jenkins' game. I thought he was huge, stepping in and really giving us a boost when we needed it. We'll talk about some of the stuff the chat's talking about. We'll get to that at the end. We'll answer some questions that we have kind of earmarked here, but we
can come back to them later at some point too.
Yes, put your questions in. We'll answer them at the end as we wrap this thing up. But do need to kind of give a shout out to a few guys. Obviously, we touched on Gillis, who was huge. I thought David Jenkins was awesome, man. He hit some huge shots, tough shots. It does continue to feel like he's better with a tough three off the dribble than an open three, although he did hit an open three as well. So 3 threes, just was awesome, man. Just was really awesome. I had a great drive, got a paint touch, kicked it to Morton there in the middle of that run and gave Purdue that little cushion, in the second half that they really needed, especially with all the chicanery that went down at the end. Like they needed that. They needed to have a little buffer there, because I think if that game had been tied back and forth, lead changes, I think Purdue potentially could have lost it, because it's so easy to get caught up in all the kind of the BS that Rutgers is pulling, and just in general, it's not really the refs or anything. It's just that is what Rutgers trying to do, and so they want to incite, the reaction that they got out of Zach with obviously the little push or whatever the heck that was. I mean, that wasn't, to me, that didn't warrant a flagrant, but it's also like he probably doesn't need to be running in there out of nowhere and, putting his hands on Mulcahy. So certainly if it was anyone that you were going to shove, it would definitely be Mulcahy. But I think that the cushion was huge and Jenkins provided that. He was good defensively. Never felt like there was really a let up there outside of the fact that where he got backdoored by McConnell. But other than that, I thought he was pretty solid. So just want to shout him out. Like we've been talking, there's going to be a game, when it's do or die and Jenkins steps up. This was definitely one of them. Certainly not the season on the line, but potentially a 1 seed, and he delivered.
Yeah, first double-digit scoring game for him since January 29th, home against MSU. Coming at the right time, and he's a tough one where it's just like, he hit 4 of the last 7 games he hasn't played double-digit minutes. But this felt like a game that they needed, just the physicality that he can bring. What would you say? He's a solid defender, right? Kind of in that.
Sure,
he's kind
physical.
of like Smith. Yeah, he's kind of like Smith in that I don't think he's going to make too many mistakes, but he can bring more physicality than like a Braden or Fletch. And we'll talk about Fletch in a bit because I know he's been very much struggling. This is when you get into these single elimination formats and consistency really doesn't matter. It's variance. It's who is making more shots. Like we're talking about variance. I'm just kind of stat checking on the backside. Like MSU is 2 for 11 from 3 and 15 of 40 overall. Michigan or Ohio State's 7 of 15 from 3, and they're up 7. Like it's just a lot of, it's literally just, it's simple analysis, but it's, can you make shots? And Jenkins is a guy that can make shots, doesn't need a screen. Or if he does, like the first one was Amori just for some reason didn't put his arms up until late. I don't know why Amori didn't step up more, but he didn't. And Jenkins 3 feet behind the line just pulls up, drills it. It's a guy that's needed. And, I'm hoping that Lawyer has this type of game soon, because I still think it's in him this year. It's just, you need guys like that can randomly just go off for 12, 15 points, create their own shots when it comes down to, 5 minutes is all that really, really matters. So, I thought he was great. I really liked the lineup. I kind of with that, and maybe transition here, I thought Painter was great today. I thought he made the right adjustments for the most. Maybe I guess we'll exclude the press at the end, but that's more even that.
But again, we heard on the broadcast it was his call and they just didn't execute.
Yeah.
So I mean, he doesn't want them throwing into that corner. I can promise you guys, he does not want that. They get too jumpy and throw the first pass that they see, and now it's so easy to get trapped. But I think what you were going to say maybe is, looking at the chat, like the Lawyer Jenkins thing, like I thought he balanced that well.
Yeah.
I thought his rotations were good. He really, when we were down, 17-5, he puts in kind of the defensive lineup there with Jenkins for Smith, sat the freshman guards for a while. Yeah. And those guys got up into him and really, just got stops. And it was a slow grind offensively with that group, for sure. But they got stops and were able to kind of cut into that lead. And by halftime, we had regained the lead, So and let's talk Lawyer, because that's the chat's on him again. I'll admit
not
this.
Good today.
This was the game where I would say this was certainly the first game where I was just like, okay, you got to get him out of there. You've got to get him out of there. And so I think Painter did that. I think he tried him at the end. I struggle with this, trying to balance getting Lawyer's confidence right with winning the freaking game is tough. Like I don't envy Painter's position, because I think he values Fletcher Lawyer. He thinks he's a guy who could get hot. He's going to have great looks. We know that. We've seen that. And so he's going to have big opportunities in March. So how much do you want to really just pull him? I know some guy said 10 minutes a game, and Corey's on him. And I get that. We have been forcing him for a while. And so I think today Painter finally said, Jenkins is going to get more minutes. Brandon Newman's going to get more minutes. Ethan Morton's going to get more minutes. Lawyer played the 4th most minutes of that core 4 this year. But I still think there's upside to him where you can't just completely sit him. I think it's not a great matchup. That's true, Brian. So I don't know. I'm definitely not as optimistic as I have been, because it's tough. They're great looks. They're great looks off the dribble, in rhythm, comfortable. And there's just not much of an excuse for not making the shots. I mean, Caleb First, he doesn't get an excuse when he misses wide open shots. So we can't really do the same for Fletch, other than the fact that we know he's a better shooter than First. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to how long you stick with him, but something's got to give, kind of probably at this point.
I think at this point, it's gonna be like today. I still think you put him out there in the first run. I don't think, and I guess I kind of sort of they came back. I don't think you necessarily lose the game in the first 4 minutes with Lawyer in. I think you can get a big lead if he gets hot and it changes the game. And like this, he only played 19 minutes. It's not like he was in there the whole time. He comes back in at the end because Newman. I still trust Lawyer over Newman, and not Morton, but I still trust Lawyer over Newman for purely breaking a press. And not saying that Lawyer is amazing at this or anything like that, but I think there's that part. You just hope that something sticks. Like, you hope that he has a Jenkins game and he comes in and knocks down. And then if he isn't, then you take him out. I think that's probably where I'm at with him. I hope it comes. He's getting good looks and he's just missing. And I still think he's a really good shooter, or at least a solid shooter. I don't know if it's just the freshman wall or what, but it was a really tough matchup for him today. And Painter made the right call. 19 minutes with 3 or 4 of those coming in the last few minutes where they just needed somebody to break a press.
Yeah.
And in an ideal world, and the other thing is if, say, Jenkins isn't hitting, right? That's happened. Jenkins doesn't make his shots. You still, I guess, give Jenkins minutes on defensive upside, but like, who are you replacing? You can go Newman and Morton, and that I think I'm at the point where I'm cool with it for a couple, but like, that's just tough on offense. And I guess maybe, yeah, but then I guess Lawyer isn't hitting shots, so what does it matter? I don't know. I think it's just tough to fully replace him. But if he isn't making shots, then it is tough.
I think the Newman Morton lineup gets significantly more appealing if Gillis plays like he did today.
Yes.
I mean, and I think you have to have him in there with that lineup at this point. Caleb first.
When they went with first with it, it was brutal.
It was brutal. And First had 2 awesome opportunities in the first half. And again, like, you want him to shoot those. I mean, I don't think we want him driving a closeout because he's not great off the dribble. Caleb First, meaning. So yeah, you want him to hit him, and he's just not right now, and that's fine. But that's going to mean more time on the bench, which is understandable. The problem with today's game is Gillis is not going to give you 20 and 9 every game, and maybe he gets on a heater himself. I mean, last year the non-conference slate, he was like 50% from 3. I mean, now we're only talking like 8 games here. So that, I mean, certainly he could just get on a heater from 3. He could, if he continues to repeat this performance, like, Purdue's in a really good spot, I think, for sure, because matchups will be better than Rutgers. Like, go ahead.
If you're counting Gillis today as like looking at the positive, because I think he struggled a bit over late, and I want to talk, about him probably a little bit more, but at this point, Lawyer's struggling, First is struggling. If you count Jenkins and Gillis as, maybe this could, or at least Jenkins and Gillis are in that, like, oh, maybe they're like getting hot now. Like, really just Lawyer and the First are the only 2 that are like iffy. And this is a bench that we didn't know what it was going to be. Now you have 3 guys coming off the bench that are, I trust at least. I thought TKR was great in his 7 minutes. Had the one hiccup and drop coverage, but aside from that, I thought he's good. First is, I still like him defensively. He's just another guy like Lawyer that just can't hit a shot right now. And so there's that issue too, but it's a team that's deeper, and some of the bench guys are getting going at the right time. Newman's obviously, Morton's still good off the bench. Jenkins, Gillis, TKR's been good. TKR's been good.
Yeah.
So I think there's some promising signs there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree that we should probably, I think just play the best play, like today in a game where Jenkins is playing well, then you play Jenkins, and I think if we're at the point now where it's kind of win or go home, and you don't play Lawyer if he's not playing well. I think what we saw from Ethan Morton today, we can transition to him because I think Joe wanted to talk a little bit about him as well. OSU's up 13 with 6 minutes to go. Gentry, wow. So it looks like we will get a third crack at the Buckeyes here if that holds. I was just transitioning to talking about Morton. I thought he needed to be talked about. He was awesome. Like we touched on it a little bit earlier, the ability to knock down open threes and to make plays for others. Like that's all we ask about him. His defense we take for granted. It's very solid. Obviously, we know that. He had an awesome block today on Cam Spencer on a baseline out of bounds play where he curled around and got a piece of it. He had a couple bad turnovers there at the end, but that can be said about pretty much everyone here. So if we kind of just forget about that and you look at Morton's game, it was basically the maximum like peak Morton game, about as good as you can hope to get from him. Just creating for others, making plays. I think he's one of the best, maybe the best at getting Zach the ball when it's not obvious that Zach's open. Like when you get that middle post up or he's like kind of being 3/4 wrapped. And Morton kind of just fires it in there. I think he's really good at that. I thought Newman, by the way, as a side, made some great post-entry passes early. And then late getting Zach that dunk where he kind of hung on the rim. But yeah, Morton, like he just made plays, man. He got 28 minutes. He absolutely deserved it. Would not have minded if he played more minutes because he handles the ball for you. And if he's hitting half of his 3-point shots or 40% of his 3-point shots right now, then it becomes like you can't take him off the floor. And maybe what we're seeing is just a couple guys starting to rise up in March and a couple guys starting to kind of fall off a little bit, like you said, with First and Lawyer. And it's on Painter to adjust. It's on Painter to adjust. And so I think if you face a team where there's multiple problematic matchups on the wing, you now feel certainly a lot more comfortable than you did 2 weeks ago about playing Braden Smith, Brandon Newman, and Ethan Morton as a pretty darn solid, or David Jenkins for Smith, as a pretty darn solid defensive backcourt. I mean, that defensive backcourt in the half court is really solid, especially with Edie, playing behind. So,
yeah, no, I agree with all that you said. Ethan was phenomenal today. 28 minutes, 8 points, 4 assists. He's continuing. After a very slow start, he's continuing to hit shots, and teams are still acting like Morton's a nothing, it seems like, on offense, and I just don't think that's true anymore. And maybe he's the weakest offensive player at times out there, so you still just do that because of how good Edie is. But if Morton's kind of shooting his way out of this, and then there's just like he's a good. I trust him to make 3 hard dribbles and make a pass, get into a paint, kick out. I trust him to make the right decision way more than he's going to make a mistake, at least in the half court. And there's I don't know why he tried dribbling through 3 guys in the press today, but I got nothing for that. But
that was silly. It was. This is what it is.
When 5-6 games ago, people were calling for Newman. Like, this was the ideal outcome, is now you have 2 elite wing defenders, or guard, small wing, whatever. And Newman and Morton, they do it in different ways. And now you can, Painter can go to both of them. And if Gillis is hitting or Edie can get going, or Smith can go in the pick and roll, you at least can do enough, because it's just tough. It's tougher to run, that Chicago action and things like that they run a ton. It's harder to run for Newman. They have started using Morton in it a little bit, or at least as a decoy, and just kind of space him out. So I've liked that too, but I don't know. He's just been good.
Yeah, and I think he does make some silly decisions at times, to Blair's point here. But I think he makes the right play more than not, and he's better at attacking closeouts than Newman, maybe even than Lawyer at this point, because of his size and strength. Like he will drive in there, and he's not going to try to do too much most of the time. Obviously, we just all have that horrible, horrible decision on our mind. But most of the time he's going to do a pretty good job. So really liked him. I liked the first 3 he hit. Maybe it was the first one, the one that was contested on the left wing was awesome, because he just pulled the trigger on that thing. It wasn't late clock. And he just said, I'm shooting this ball and it's going to go in, and just pulled it with confidence. It may have actually been late clock.
I think it was a late clock.
Either way, it was a contested shot, got it up there, got it in, a confident stroke. And so I think that's what we need from him. Guys are asking about transfers. I don't even really want to talk about that right now.
I'll talk about this. John Randall, 6-point game, 56-50 for Ohio State. So maybe Aidan cursed him when he said, "Looks like we'll get a third shot at the Buckeyes." Who knows?
Yep, may have done that. So my apologies on that. But
so do we want to
certainly
do we want to
keep
go
an eye
through
on
some
that.
questions? Do we want to go through some questions and then maybe we can kind of prolong this till we know a final, and then maybe
Sure, yeah,
preview?
that's a good call.
If you have questions, whatever, put them in.
Yeah, let's talk this one from Willie. Yeah, there was definitely some double floppy today. There's definitely not. I haven't noticed as much Zach not giving the handoff.
Well, they run.
I'm wondering
They've
what
run
he
a
means
little
by
bit
that.
of. They want to run a little bit of like they have like Morton or somebody else run first, and they fake. He just kind of fakes that handoff and then hands off the second one. I think that's what he's talking about.
Right. Oh yeah. They've done that a lot where Morton comes in as kind of the false, handoff guy on that Zoom guy, whatever you want to call it, and then it becomes. And they've done that a little bit. They used to run that more when Lawyer was going. They would fake it to Lawyer, and then Smith would come behind it, and that's a great counter. I mean I hope you guys understand how like sick that is, just from a coach's perspective, like adding different layers to it and counters. Like it's such a widely used action, the Zoom Chicago action, dribble handoff, off a pin down, but it really Painter and Terry Johnson just do such a good job with it. So they were effective with that again today, getting guys downhill. Jenkins more would like to use it to get off a mid-range shot or whatever, but effective there. I don't know if you had something there, Joe. I mean, they also ran some stagger stuff where they throw it to the slot and then go set a double screen, a stagger screen for the corner guy, and then just run stuff off that. So that was a nice wrinkle too. They don't usually run a ton of that. So yeah, a couple of nice things to add. I'll go back through it and probably post some stuff that I liked on Twitter. So
yeah. Are you okay? Side note, and this is, I guess I could just text you about this. Are we concerned about like clips being copyrighted in the Big Ten tourney?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I won't be until I get called out for it on Twitter. I mean, on YouTube, or we would be putting stuff in here right now.
True.
But I want to, but Braggs is worried about the copyright, which I understand.
Yeah.
So
think we can get into this. Yeah, that one.
Okay, go ahead.
So seeing comments on BDH, which is Boiler Diehards Facebook group, 10,000 plus members, run by Kraig. If you aren't in that and on Facebook, definitely go check that out, Boiler Diehards. But seeing comments on Boiler Diehards, people thinking we aren't in a slump 3-point shooting. We just aren't that good shooting the three. Thoughts? I'm starting to lean that way. Like, I don't know how many more good looks you can get. I think I'm more, maybe not bad, but just really streaky. Like Jenkins hits 3 of 3, Morton goes 2 of 4, Gillis goes 2 of 3, and everybody else misses everything. But then Smith can have a random 3 of 4 game, and I still think Lawyer can have a random 4 of 9 game, and Newman can obviously get going on and when he's hot. And so I think I'm more on the streaky side instead of purely bad, but it's definitely concerning. And if you listen the past week or so, I've definitely changed my attitude, and I really think it's just the biggest thing on how far this team goes. Yeah,
I mean they have guys who have all been good 3-point shooters at the high school level. We can definitely say that, and some who have been good 3-point shooters at the college level. But the numbers don't lie, do they, Joe? And for the season now, we played 32 games and we rank 246th in the country in 3-point percentage. So I mean it's a pretty harsh reminder there of what we've been. They just don't hit open shots. They get amazing looks. Braden Smith creates some unbelievable looks for guys like the one to Lawyer today and a couple to First. I mean, those were point blank, wide open threes that they just didn't hit. And then the second half, they did hit some, and they found a rhythm. And in the second half, I think they were 5 of 10 from 3. So pretty darn good there, but this is not going to be a team that beats you making 13 threes at this point. I mean, we know that to be the case. So
now the only positive before we move on is like, if that game comes, like watch for that game to come in a pivotal, like a Sweet 16 or
we're
something.
Not going to lose. Yeah. If we hit 15 threes, we're not going to, I mean, there's no way, No.
So that's just me being the pure optimist that I kind of am, is I'm waiting for that just, Sweet 16 or maybe even Elite 8 and gets us to the Final Four of just like, it's like a 12 for 19 from 3 day. Because I think that's in there. I'm not saying it'll come out. I think that type of performance is in there though. So we can move on to the next one. Smith picks up his
Yeah.
dribble too soon and gets into trouble. What you got?
I think that's fair at times, certainly. But it's a catch-22 because we've all yelled at him for leaving his feet, you know. And so at some point when you're 5'11" and you're driving inside, you're going to have to pick up your dribble. I do think there are times where he could keep dribbling like underneath the rim, and he maybe could do that a little bit more often. I do think when he jump stops, he's made much better decisions of late. Maybe on the press you're talking about, that's definitely been a concern on the press, because he just isn't. He picks up his dribble and then he never really tries to step through, or he just simply can't step through because he's giving up 6 or 7 inches on a guy, you know. So it's tough with a guy his size. I'll say that. I'm not trying to give him a pass or whatever, but it is tough with a guy his size to do anything with that. So, you know, it is what it is. I think it's something he's got to keep working on for sure as he kind of grows here. We kind of answered that. So we will get into this one from Brad, which is Ethan scored over 2,000 points in high school. Guy can shoot and score when you're called to do other things. Yeah, I agree with that. Like he has certainly talked about this publicly. Like this hasn't exactly gone to plan. The guy was a 4-star top 90, give or take, recruit that was just an absolute monster in high school and basically was Oscar Robertson in high school. And so like it's been an adjustment having to be, you know, the role player that he is. I think it's been fun to watch his career because I just think it's been fun to watch him, like the Texas game last year that Corey mentioned, and just kind of have some big moments. I think he's a great leader for the team. And I think this is it. Like he has sort of been coached into a new role. I will say he did play point essentially with the New York Rens team that had Kofi Coburn and a bunch of other studs. So like he had some experience kind of being second, third, maybe even fifth fiddle at times. But I like Ethan, man. I really do.
Yeah, no, I don't got too much more to add. Like just buying into his role. But he scored 2,000 points for a reason, and maybe it doesn't all translate to the college level, or at least in Purdue system. But there is something there for sure. So
sure,
move on to the next one.
You
guys, what did Purdue do better defensively this time? So okay, he didn't kill us in the lane like last time. I think you'll probably be able to answer this better. But my one thing I did notice is instead of and I guess it wasn't specifically Mulcahy, but a lot of times when Ohio State was going to their handoffs or their Chicago actions, especially if it was in the middle, Purdue was actually like just cutting it now. And oftentimes they'll trail. Yeah. This time they were cutting it. Yep. And maybe it's because you're not worried about Rutgers flaring for a 3. But I did notice that, and I think that kind of helps keep everything in front.
Yeah, that's the key point, I think, because they undercut it, and Mulcahy got a 3 off that early when First was guarding him. He just flared it off and got a 3, but you'll have to live with that with him. And so that's why it's the funny part is like they get up 17-4, but they're doing stuff that they don't usually do. Like Mulcahy hitting 3s and Simpson getting so I thought Simpson really was the guy. They still trailed on Simpson and he burned them a little bit. He actually was kind of giving Hood Schifino vibes there for a little bit, knocking down some tough middies. He's going to be a nice player. He's going to be a problem for a little while, but he ended up only going 5 for 16. So like, it wasn't like he killed us. Yeah, they did a nice job on Mulcahy. They also didn't run as much Chicago from Mulcahy once they noticed that adjustment.
Yeah.
So nice job there by Painter and staff. Coach Lusk obviously taking care of the defense there. Corey, I think this maybe is a bit of an overreaction given how young he is. I think maybe that could be true for this year. I totally agree on that. Like the days of him, hitting game-winning shots and putting up nearly 30 in Nebraska or whatever he did. And yeah. I mean, I not sure we'll see that again. If we do, we're probably going to win the national title. So, but I think certainly going forward, like he's I think going to be a really nice player, especially once he gets in the weight room. So,
yeah, I'm with you there. I get maybe this year, but I think he's still too talented for this to not improve. This is one I saw interesting. Like, do you bring him off the bench? But then it's just, do you start let's say this happens, and I don't think this happens. I think you keep the rotation, and if you're going to do anything, you just cut Lawyer's minutes after. You just, take him off in the first media timeout, and then you don't put him in until way later. But let's say he doesn't start. Let's just play hypothetical. You starting Jenkins or Morton, or is it matchup dependent?
I'd probably start Jenkins. I don't know. I think here's the thing. I think this is the point. He doesn't see, and you got to know your guy, right? Who's least likely to have their confidence hurt by being benched? Third year Ethan Morton, like 8th year David Jenkins or whatever he is, or freshman Fletcher Lawyer. I think it would be Lawyer that would probably suffer the most from that benching, and we've seen that because Jenkins has handled it awesome. Morton's handled it awesome, and we haven't seen Lawyer have to handle it. So yeah, you can as a coach, you can mess with his confidence by pulling him from the starting lineup, even though it doesn't mean anything because he still got the 4th amount of minutes today, but he's still thinking in his head, hey, I get to start. So I think that's a big piece of it, not trying to damage his confidence. I know we're all kind of down on him right now, but I still don't think any of us want to intentionally like hurt his confidence, and you can get him less minutes without doing that. So I do think that's important.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And, you got to remember, I guess they're basically sophomores at this point, but he is still a freshman. I just, from what I've heard of his upbringing and stuff, like, I just can't see him being a guy that's going to he understands he's struggling, and he understands that
for sure
right now,
for sure.
Time, like his basketball IQ is good enough and really high that he knows that he isn't like going to be playing 35 minutes right now, that he shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, he's not delusional. He's not delusional about it.
No.
This one I noticed that. I did. I mean, I just don't really see anything that different than what normally they do. But
yeah, I got nothing really. Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on. Yeah.
There we go.
I didn't see that.
Oh, that was. You got it.
Okay, you got it. No, go ahead. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. I assume you're talking about when Edie was going for, like, he was on the offensive. He was between two guys. Like, we were shooting, and he was going for offensive board. There was a picture that circulated like a week ago of the two guys for boxing out literally locked arms in front of him, and that is not allowed. That is quite, like, by definition, a foul. And Spencer, was trying to play it off like he was going for like a high five to Amori, and maybe he was. But I think it was that you like the Red Rover, like cross, like linking arms. That's just teams have started doing that to Edie because he's Zach Edie, and
Red
what else are you gonna do? So I think that's what it was, and just trying to teams have to, especially Rutgers, like they're gonna do whatever they can to do stuff like that, and just if they can get away with it, they're gonna do it, and it gives them a little advantage. But,
right.
That's what I assume. That's what it was about. If it was about when Edie's shooting, then it's just somebody's just trying to stand in front of him. That's all that is.
Yeah, and I think like that's a good point, because some teams like are just gonna be willing to do dirty stuff, like, or stuff that crosses the line. And Purdue's never gonna be that team. I think a lot of times teams take on the identity of their coach, and Matt Painter's not that guy. He wants to play by the book. He wants to beat you, straight up. And Peichel wants to drag you into the mud and start wrestling, and so like they're comfortable doing that. And if Purdue runs into another team that's going to do that, they're going to have to match that level of intensity, because they're not going to get the calls. The officials have proven time and time again that ultimately, if you just do that for the course of the game, they'll let some of it slide. They just will. They don't want to call a foul every play, or every other play or whatever. That doesn't mean they were unfair to Purdue necessarily. It just means that they're not, we're not going to get to the line every possession. So I do think that's key. I'm not sure how many teams even in the field look like Rutgers from a makeup standpoint. So like, I don't know. This one here. Yeah. Appreciate it, Derek. Willie coming in here. But this is one thing I want to talk about. There were a few in the first half where they just overhelped for no reason and gave up corner threes, helping off that strong side corner, just kind of a cardinal sin in the game of basketball, as we know. Like, if a guy's driving and you're the help defender on the corner and he's a fairly good shooter, please do not help, especially when there's a 7'4" giant coming over to help from the weak side there. So that got us into trouble early, and then they cleaned it up. I'm sure they got yelled at for that. That's something that's been a problem for a few years, but only in small samples. This one's interesting. I would not want to see Texas A&M. I know Lenardi had us. They were like the 7 against us. 15s. I saw we were going against Colgate. That wouldn't be ideal.
No,
for sure. I don't know what you've seen as far as that. A few have us as a 2, and then a lot have us as a 1 still. So
yeah, just looking in the general area, some teams in general. I don't know if I love the Arkansas matchup.
yeah, no.
A&M,
no.
like you said, if Kentucky slid to a 7, they just have enough firepower. I think we'd beat them, but they have enough firepower. Creighton, I don't want to deal with their 3-point shooting. But those are more
State.
6 seeds. Yeah. Just kind of
NC State's guard play.
Yeah, really.
Providence would not be ideal, but outside of that, I would be pretty confident.
Maybe
you look at it.
If you can avoid Northern Kentucky, if you're a 1 seed as the 16 seed, I would enjoy that. But that's still should just just stomp them. So
and Lenardi updated his bracket like a couple hours ago before the game, and we were still at 2. Now I don't know how much you want to trust him. I personally use Delphi Bracketology as like kind of my number 1 source. I don't think they have a new bracket out yet. They still had Purdue as a 1 from what I could tell. So
Bracket
Matrix, gonna be sweating it out. I don't know.
Bracket Matrix has Purdue as a 1, and that's just like a conglomerate of everything. It's like hundreds of pretty credible, some more credible than others, but so
and it looks like OSU has closed out this game. Is that right? Looks like there's final. So 68-58. Pretty rough showing there by Michigan State. Obviously, I didn't get to watch any of it, pretty much, just a little bit of the start. But for OSU, they went nuts from 3, and then it's what Joe and I talk about a lot. That's how you beat teams. So, if it happens again tomorrow, they're going to be running on pure adrenaline. They got nothing to lose. They're not going to make the NIT if they lose. Their season is completely over if they lose a game here. So they are going to lay it on the line tomorrow. Matchup wise, they're likely going to be without Bryce Sensabaugh and Zed Key. They're definitely going to be without Key, and Sensabaugh is a bit of addition by subtraction. I think he doesn't play lick of defense, so I definitely think that may help them, especially if Thornton keeps playing as well as he has. He has gained quite a bit of confidence since the last time these two teams met. So,
he had 21 today, 6 assists. This is not the same Ohio State team that Purdue just destroyed a couple weeks ago. Shout out Willie Dean. He understands us. Restricted. I mean, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to bring the content. And we have been enjoying doing this. And I think we're just going to talk a little bit OSU, MSU, and then wrap it up because I do want to go watch.
This is right. I mean, we are grinding it out here near 90 minutes. And Braggs is, getting Grant Hill's autograph. So that's okay. What are you going to do about it? This is Braggs in the stands, isn't it? So that's fine. It's all right. He's doing his thing up there in Chicago while we peasants are working here, so it's good. But no, I don't know.
What's your biggest concern for tomorrow besides Ohio State going 80% from 3?
I think their guards getting loose in their Chicago action. I think McNeil has been playing with a lot of confidence. I think Thornton obviously has been really good in the pick and roll. Akpara is at least a credible lob threat. So, that's going to be a situation where Purdue has to kind of play it like they did a little bit for IU. Now you've got Suing and you've got McNeil spacing out around them, and Holden, in the minutes I saw, played pretty well today.
Gale, another good game.
Gale's been solid as well. So, they're playing with a lot of confidence. Like I said, they got nothing to lose. I think that'll be the matchup there. I think defensively we shouldn't have a problem. I mean, they're not going to be a team that can really pressure us because of their personnel and because they're not very deep. I think when Likely gets in there, he can certainly wreak some havoc. And then there's obviously going to be times where they go small and Akpar is likely going to foul quickly like he has in the other matchups. And so then it'll be, do they go Gale or they go Eugene Brown at the 5? Do they go Ice Likely at the 5 again and just try and spread us out? But that has worked so well for Purdue recently. But I would expect more of a game like the first one at their place, like a close game. I'm sure Purdue will be favored fairly heavily, but this team's desperate and they're talented, man. So
I am with you. Let's say they start Gale, which they did today, over Sensabaugh, or they started Thornton, Suing,
McNeil.
Gale,
they started McNeil, right?
Akpar. Yeah. Obviously, Edie takes Okpara. He's like a mini Omori at this point. Not as developed or anything like that, but just super athletic.
Newman takes Thornton for sure.
Yeah, and then Gillis takes
think.
Sewing, and then Lawyer takes McNeil, and Smith takes Gale, or vice versa.
Yeah. I think Smith would take Gale in that situation. Maybe they'd want Smith on Thornton, and they wouldn't care. But
this could be a game that Lawyer This is a matchup that Lawyer could get going, I think. But they also they hard hedge the Chicago stuff, and that's where it just kind of takes him out. But yeah, no, I think if Okpara gets in foul trouble, I don't know what they do for Edie again. It's gonna be then they're gonna double and triple team, and then you got to just make good kickouts. I would expect Ohio State to throw a press again, but after the first 2 possessions in the last one, it was really bad. But yeah, I don't know. That's it's a game that Purdue should win, but also, like you said, Ohio State has nothing to lose, and they win 2 more games and they're in the tourney. So
yeah, and I think that's
a good point.
I think that the motivation, though, will I think supersede fatigue for guys this young. They now can taste it. I mean, they have made it to the point where they look up and they just have to beat a Purdue team that they should have beaten at their place, an Indiana team that's beatable if they win, and maybe it's Penn State or Northwest. I mean, they now are looking at this going, hey, we have 2 games here on a neutral floor, and these teams aren't scary. That's scary. No team is quaking in their boots with Purdue. I mean, Purdue's good, but no team's like super scared of Purdue. So they're going to play hard, man. They're going to come out. They're going to shoot the ball well. I'm almost sure of that. I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't. 3 games now, getting reps shooting with that ball in that gym. These guys are just such good shape that when you start to kind of dangle that carrot of a tournament berth after how bad this season's been, they're going to play hard, man. I think adrenaline is going to win the day for them, as Willie's saying.
Yeah, and
not necessarily win the game. I still think Purdue will win, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Got to stop Thornton. That's where it starts. If you can slow him down, then it's at that point you're just hoping that they don't drill a bunch of mid-range jumpers, and that can happen. But I don't know if we have nothing. I don't know if we really have anything besides that. Want to give a shout out. Go through some of the pictures from the ISC today at the game. They provide us with these photos post games. Make sure to go check them out on Twitter at ISC_Purdue. This is an Edie kind of. I don't know if he was getting a rebound or going for a dunk here. The big man hitting the floor. That one. What Edie ended up with that one, right? I believe. This was a big shot. This was the Gillis floater with a couple minutes left, where it's Rutgers is kind of there. A miss here, Rutgers could go down and score and cut us 3 or 4. But really great work. Huge Jenkins 3. That's actually okay. That was better defense than I thought. That was really good defense.
Look at that follow through, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool photo right there. Morton got going. You'd love to see that. But yeah, he hits 2, and Smith got the charge late, which was also a big play. So yeah, shout out over at ISC_Purdue on Twitter. Definitely go give them a follow. Give a quick shout out to just our sponsors in general. First over at Shire Insurance for all your insurance needs. Definitely go check them out. Shout out to Fanbags Cornhole for cornhole needs or bags. If we call it bags from where I'm from, but I think I'm one of the few areas that does that.
Yeah, you are.
But that's the region right there. And then shout out to Mad Mush. Like I said, use promo code BITS for 15% off. As get some good pizza to go along with the basketball. So I'm going to shout out us too, because we can, and I'm controlling this right now. This is our podcast Feed the Post. We just had Jeremy Frank on yesterday. Just kind of talking Purdue and Big Ten hoops. Definitely go check that out on Apple, Google, and Spotify. This itself, the live shows, any interviews with Brags or Boilers in the Stands, those are also have an audio platform. Obviously, if you're watching here, I don't know if you're necessarily going to want to go listen to it, but we would appreciate still giving it 5 stars, downloading, leaving a review. Those are on Apple, Google, and Spotify as well. Boilers in the Stands. So, and then just we appreciate all the likes and support and comments here. If you can on the way out, leave a like. It just helps us out on the back end. We really appreciate it. Going to be live again tomorrow post game. We'll discuss whether it's going to be directly after the game or if it'll be after the second game. So we will have to figure that out. And then, maybe we'll be talking about a potential Big Ten championship matchup. So do you have anything else, Aidan? Any last thoughts?
No, I'll see you guys Sunday, man. I got a funeral tomorrow, so we'll not be on the show tomorrow. We'll not be able to watch the game even live. So I will see you guys Sunday. We appreciate you tuning in as always, sticking with us, sticking with Braggs as he makes his connections and meanders his way around the bowels of the United Center. But we appreciate you guys, and thanks for tuning in as always. And boiler up, man.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. Be live tomorrow, like I said. Be live Sunday. Possible bracket show Sunday. So enjoy all the good hoops and all that. It's a fun time. So we will be back tomorrow.